Hey Venkat, thank you so much for joining this session. It's awesome to have you here. I know you personally. We both worked in the same team, and I know how you have worked as a DevOps engineer at US. So, can you please give introduction about yourself briefly? How did you start working as a DevOps engineer? But before that, how did you actually go to US?
Mhm.
And how did you start this whole IT career in US?
Yeah, sure, JK. Thanks for the opportunity, firstly.
Sure.
So, coming to myself, I came to Masters in 2014
Yeah.
after finishing my BTech in India, and I was from a non-IT background. I came to do electronic engineering, and
Mm.
then I started moving into the IT. I joined a consultancy as an intern and started working on the BizTalk, one of the Microsoft middleware technologies. So at that time, I also started learning the cloud. I did a certification in AWS based on someone's suggestion.
Yeah.
So that's how I started to know. I got to know about cloud. At
Mm.
that time, I also started learning Linux because that's one of the
Basic
mostly used.
fundamentals. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned Linux and AWS, and at that point, I felt little comfortable working on the cloud side than the BizTalk because this I had more focus and more hands-on in the learning process. So
Right.
then I started looking for jobs in AWS, and that's how shifted to DevOps and cloud. And at that time, I started working in Verizon. And initially, my project was on Windows
Yeah.
automation. And during that time, Ansible is also a very new tool, and it also doesn't have an official support for the Windows platform,
Right.
and that's how new it is. So at that time, I came to know there is a configuration management tool called Ansible, and I started learning that to do my day-to-day activities. So, and later I moved to Linux, and right now I'm working as a senior engineer. So I oversee the DevOps and cloud and some of the vendor applications in my team.
Yeah, thanks, Venkat. So I know that you're working on a mission critical applications handling millions and millions of transactions, and like we jovially talk about that, right? So if that application goes down, it severely impacts the company. People will know about it on next day in the newspaper. So it is that critical.
And
You've been handling that for quite some time, right? So how does your day look like in general as a DevOps engineer handling the mission critical application?
so we used to have a lot of challenges, okay? And for the same application, right? Like, I mean, if it goes down, it's not even next gen newspaper; it would be on Twitter in next minute.
Yeah.
So
True.
that's how complex and critical it is,
Right.
because it's like customer-facing application.
Right.
And we do used to have a lot of challenges like that we had to address in terms of operational efficiencies,
Mm.
maintaining the application, the cost control, and also resilience. Like I know, like we both worked on getting the resilience, like
Yeah.
building a parallel path in order to have that continuity. So most of the times, like I mean. Even my day-to-day calls even now goes on the same focus areas like high availability, resilience, and
Hmm.
monitoring and efficiencies, like improving the efficiency in the frameworks. And usually I spend around like 4 to 5 hours in calls on
Okay.
a day-to-day basis. And yeah, part of it also goes into the DevOps, but mostly we focus on these areas right now.
Okay. And do you work in the night or like only in the day?
I used to work in the night in the beginning phases of my career, like almost
Yeah.
like 4 years. I used to almost support release every week, and our releases like with this large scale and critical applications, it used to go all night. So My shift used to kind of go from the day until like evening 6, 7, because I also need to do some prep works for that. And
Yeah.
then again, I used to start at 9 o'clock, and then it used to go till like morning 6 o'clock. But nowadays, I don't do a night shift. It's more kind of like if there is any escalation or like something critical, and the team is relying on me, only then I join in the nights. But in general, yeah, I'm not working in the night.
Okay. And what tools do you use as a DevOps engineer? Most common tools that people have to learn.
So one is with starting with the OS. Like Linux is one very very basic thing that
Yeah.
any DevOps engineer need to know,
Right.
and shell scripting when you're working in Linux environment, and Python. Those three are like very critical, like for you to touch any component or
Right.
automate anything. And Jenkins, Git. You don't need to like know end to end everything in the Git, but you need to know like what you have to do on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
With the basic integrations with your build jobs, or like do some validation before you start pulling from Git into a build, or those kind of scenarios, or like just to put a check on
Mhm.
whether the code commit has the right proper message or not. So for those kind of things, and Maven, uh, and
The build tool.
Ansible,
Yeah.
yeah, and Ansible. Those are the critical tools, like, in order to just establish the process. But
Yeah.
being a DevOps engineer, it doesn't just end there. Like, we also need to do the end-to-end monitoring. So um, I use like Splunk,
For
Elk, New
logging.
Relic,
Yeah.
and yeah, Grafana. So basically, Splunk and Elk we use for end-to-end logging,
Right.
and New Relic and Grafana we use for the monitoring point of view. And also some analytical tools, like one is Looker,
And Tableau and etc. etc.
and Tableau. Yeah, that's for data. So these are like main tools I would suggest. And then a cloud knowledge, like any cloud knowledge will help.
Yeah. I think mainly at least top three clouds, right? AWS or GCP or Azure would help.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Okay. Thanks, Venkat. So in your 7.5 years of experience as a DevOps engineer, what are the toughest challenges that you have faced um, as part of the job?
So my toughest challenge will be on managing the environments. That's because that's very critical. And we have very large scale applications, and when we started moving into the microservice architecture from monolith, and implementing the DevOps,
Hmm.
we reached a point where like we're spending a lot more cost in the development environments than we are
And
doing
the
in the
actual
prod.
production environment.
Yeah, yeah. So, and also the application itself is like too complex. The nature of the application is too complex, and it need all the session management end to end. And if a session breaks, it breaks the customer experience, and customer need to go through what he went in last 1 hour on call
Yeah.
again and again. So like addressing all those challenges, and like implementing a process, or like a method, like where we can reduce those environmental overheads and the cost. That's the most challenging part. And also the team's adoption whenever we do this large scale of changes.
Hmm.
We need to get a lot of approvals. At the same time, we also need to convince a lot of people, and make them understand like why we are doing and how it doesn't impact them,
Right.
and what measures we are taking for each component that we are touching. So that's the most challenging part. And also, when I say the adaption, right, it's not just sharing them the knowledge once, but also the additional things that we include, like testing and security automations and
Hmm.
some mandated rules. When we start integrating too many things, we also need to mandate at times, because we don't want to do anything again outside when we are trying to build a whole framework of DevOps in the application.
Yeah.
So making them understand those and adapting is also one of those challenges in the security and testing as well. So I would say, yeah, the whole journey of that application to a DevOps model, that's one of the challenging one I see in my career.
Okay. I think you also have touched upon it is important to know how to communicate with the developers. The right communication is very important, right? As part of the DevOps engineers, role. It is not just learning the tools and working as a DevOps engineer with the cloud, but most importantly, convincing them that this change is going to help them. Because most of the time,
Yeah, that's
people are resistant to the changes, right?
yeah.
And that you
Yeah,
have
that's
covered.
very critical skill that we need to have, because it's not just one person we go and talk to or like try
Yeah,
explaining it, but we need to address a lot of concerns from a lot of developers, like and that needs a lot of communication. And also I would say, like, it's not just with the developers. Like, whenever we do a change or like we need to do something new, we also need to go through a lot of approvals from external teams, not just our internal teams.
right.
And that's also like, that also needs a lot of communication. And we also kind of act like a bridge in between the central teams, like who govern it, and also our internal teams. So yeah, communication is like very crucial.
Okay. So, having worked on AWS, I'm sure you have learned a lot in AWS, but have you worked on any other cloud platform besides AWS?
Yeah, so like mostly I worked on AWS, but I also got a chance to touch on some components in the
In the
GCP.
GCP?
Yeah, yeah. So I did work on few,
Hmm.
but not like how I can't compare it with AWS, but yes, I did work.
Oh, okay. Have
Yeah.
you recently have done any certifications, or what do you think that a person is preparing for DevOps or getting into DevOps, they should learn? What kind of certifications they should get?
So I would say, like, in general, everyone just goes for the cloud certification,
Yeah,
and but I don't think that alone is useful, because it doesn't. One I say is like it doesn't touch the end-to-end process, or like it doesn't have a hands-on testing.
right.
So, it's good to have cloud, but even though if you just don't have a cloud certificate, but if you have a certification that shows that you have like passed the exam with the hands-on experience, like that would be more beneficial.
Okay.
But again, maybe like it could be a Linux certification, or it could be one of the automations like the Ansible certification. And also on the containers, like if you want to
EKS.
yeah pass an EKS, right, like you need to do a hands-on. So just having those kind of certifications and knowledge in cloud also helps. It's just not that you need to show that you have a Azure certificate or a AWS certificate to get a job in like DevOps or cloud.
Yeah. I think it depends though. I mean, recently people started asking more cloud certifications as well. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it depends on where
they
you're.
are. Yeah, mostly they nowadays they're asking, and also like some exams pattern also change.
Mm,
But yeah, it's good to have the cloud one as well,
yeah.
JK. But it
So,
depends on what exam we're giving and like, what job
exactly.
we're going to.
Right. Any suggestions for people who are looking to get into DevOps in US, especially? What kind of course should they select when going for masters, or what would you suggest? Because you have chosen electronics, right? And you have taken a different path, and that was a tough path. But what would be easier
Yeah.
path for people?
So I would suggest try to take more courses on the related side because
Computer science side.
like yeah, in the computers itself, like try to take courses more related to systems, like
Mm.
and the other one is with the programming, like more with the Python programming or Java. But going with Python is like, I mean, better because if you later want to shift to development, it still helps. But going to DevOps and the cloud technologies like DevOps, the Python is very important.
Okay.
So those two, and also nowadays, like in masters, they are including the courses for cloud and
Machine learning
also
and
even
everything.
for the containers and also the cloud, the cyber security courses.
Right.
So at least like try to cover the basic courses in those areas, and that will help a lot when we move into the DevOps.
Okay. Thanks, Venkat. So, any final thoughts that you would like to share? Anything that would help people to learn DevOps for the first time, and who are hesitant or who are a little bit scared to learn?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So to me, I see DevOps is more like a journey.
Mm.
So the more experience we gain, we'll be able to provide better and better solutions. So try not to just focus on one tool and rely on it for your whole career. Instead, try to understand the basic principles of each technology. When I say technology, like cloud itself is a technology, it's not AWS or GCP. So try
Right.
to understand the fundamentals and what that particular technology gives, or like so once you have it, then focus on single technology in I mean like single area of the technology. Like you focus on AWS, that's fine, or you go to GCP, that's fine too. But don't miss these fundamentals. And also, it's not that easy. Like some people claim that DevOps is so easy, so
Mm-hmm.
just go there, you'll get a job. And some says after you go to DevOps, you'll end up working 24/7 all the time.
Yeah.
And whenever you have a prod issue, like you need to be like you'll be scratching your head because you can't resolve it because you don't develop it.
Right.
But just don't believe in all those.
Yeah.
It just takes some time for us to adjust. And once you start working, you'll know like how to deal with each of these situations. The ones I told, right? Like even if it is difficult, or like when you're not doing the
Yeah.
actual, like I mean, you're not working on the actual issue, but you'll know like who to communicate and what to communicate. So just be patient. Just spend some time, try to learn, and one advantage I see with DevOps is like you get to touch a lot of technologies at once. Like if you're working on any project other than DevOps, like kind of development or like QA or whatever the other domains are, you won't get a chance to touch many technologies. But once you are in DevOps on the same project, you'll be able to touch a lot of technologies, and you'll have better insight on end-to-end application, what's going on around, and that will help us uh, like gain a lot of knowledge. And also like I mean like, once you have that knowledge on end-to-end applications, okay, that will help us like going forward in your career, or even like when you're switching in between the companies, right? Like,
Yeah.
that knowledge will help a lot. So
Right.
try to take DevOps, but don't give up on it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Cool, Venkat. I think it's awesome to again have you here, and you've shared a lot of good information that I'm sure will help people who would like to pursue DevOps as their career option. And thanks again for joining this conversation with me. Hopefully, we'll
Thanks
have more
for
conversations
having
in
me,
future.
JK. Yeah, sure.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Venkat.
thanks for having me, JK. Yeah.